He's a two-time NFL MVP and Super Bowl champion. After going undrafted out of Northern Iowa in 1994, he was invited to the Green Bay Packers training camp and later cut. He began stocking grocery shelves at a local Iowa grocery store before eventually signing on with the St. Louis Rams, where he won a Super Bowl. Legendary quarterback Kurt Warner joins me now to talk about the work he's doing with the First and Goal campaign. Kurt, it's a pleasure to have you and welcome.
Good to be here.
To the program. Would you necessarily encourage or discourage your kids to play football, especially quarterback?
My kids actually play. I've got two boys, one that's 15 and one that's 10. They both play football. As a parent, I'm not discouraging it, but I'm also very cautious with it. I'm a guy that, is always looking for the best protection out there. The best things is to support them. If they're going to go out and play, I want to protect them. And, as a parent, I'm always watching out for things. If anything happens and they kind of look at me funny or they tell me their head hurts, those kinds of things that I'm monitoring because I know enough about it, because I played. And so, I'm just always trying to stay ahead of the game, that I love the game. I know what it presented me. I know what it presented my family, what you can learn from it, all the lessons, along the way. But I also understand the risks. And I think it's that being educated, staying on top of it, and making sure that you're really honed into where your kids are and what they're doing, and taking every precaution to help them learn to play the game right.
Johnny Manziel has been in the news a lot. He actually had his pro day with his helmet on, which I thought was interesting. But I know you said you would take Jadeveon Clowney, who's incredible talent from South Carolina. Tell us a little bit about that, especially because Manziel, is a quarterback.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is that there's a few questions about these quarterbacks, including Johnny. As much of a playmaker as he is and as much success as he had, he still has to learn to play the game inside the pocket. He has to learn to develop into a quarterback that can read things and make those kinds of throws. So there's a question there. And I think with a guy like Jadeveon Clowney, he's just such an amazing athlete at that size that nobody's going to question that. That he's a guy that kind of talent is rare. It comes around once a decade maybe. And so I think he's, and again, I don't want to say the safe pick because I don't think he's necessarily a lock to be a star, but he's just got all the makeup to say it's hard to pass on this guy, especially if I have questions about the other guys. Now, I like Johnny, is that, I think he's just such a competitor that he's a guy I want on my football team, but I just don't think I pass up a tremendous talent like a Clowney for Johnny Manziel because I still have a few questions about what he's going to be at the National Football League level.
Yeah, of course with Johnny Manziel, you're talking about a guy that won the Heisman Trophy, has had some issues off the field, isn't 6'4", but we saw with Russell Wilson that you don't have to be 6'4" like you necessarily be successful. The other quarterbacks in that discussion, Blake Bortles and Teddy Bridgewater, are any of these guys, in your opinion, franchise quarterbacks, including Manziel?
Well, I guess what's the definition of a franchise
quarterback? A guy like you that
you
know is going to be there and is going to go to Super Bowls, go to Pro Bowls.
Well, and I think that's the question. I think all these guys will be solid NFL quarterbacks, and they'll have long careers because they've got a level of talent. The thing that it's so hard about a quarterback is we don't know when they're going to hit their ceiling. We don't know how far Johnny Manziel is from his ceiling or Blake Bortles because they haven't played very much or they're just getting into things. And I think that becomes the thing that you have to weigh out when you're, when you're drafting one of these guys in the top 10 is what are we going to get? I've seen quarterbacks that are great in college and they come out and they're the same guy in the pros that you had in college, and they kind of get swallowed up. Yeah. Or you have a Tom Brady who gets drafted in the sixth round because you go, he was just okay.
Or you.
And now bang, he's up and he's one of the greatest to ever play.
Undrafted.
So that's I think the hard part is that you look at these guys and you go, man, it seems like there's a great upside, a lot that these guys can learn and grow into. But again, are you willing to draft a guy number 1, top 5, top 10 when you don't really know what you're getting? And that becomes the question because I think this whole quarterback class, even beyond the top 3, 4 guys, there's probably 10 guys that I think could be solid NFL quarterbacks.
Derek Carr, A.J. McCarron.
Yeah, exactly. There's a number of guys you go down the list. So it's going to be interesting because how quickly is somebody going to jump off the board to get one of these guys?
For the Seattle Seahawks, I know when Super Bowl 48 and I step into the huddle, I don't look to see if that guy's black, white. I don't look to see if he's Jewish or he's Christian. I just look to make sure that he's on the same page and for one goal, and that goal is to win the Super Bowl.